Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and also to encourage people who have been painting a while to paint along with us. Today we're going to be working on jingle bells, and we're going to do a jingle bell mug. And this is what the jingle bell mug will look like. And as you can see, for both sides of it, looks pretty nice, very easy to do. And I chose a mug that had banding at the top and bottom just so it could dress it up a little. And it's a very simple project. It was something that Emily Wiley, a very, very good friend of me and a very good mentor of mine, taught us in our China club about a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And it was something that I thought was very simple to do. And it's the first time I think on this series of workshops that we've ever done a sphere. So we're going to be working on the jingle bells, and the jingle bell mug, as you can see, has all these little spheres. So you're going to learn how to shade a sphere, which I think is really, really important as we go on, because then we can do things like grapes and cherries and things like that. I'm going to have a free printable, free. So you go to my website. That's the reason I put the link out there for you. And it's paintnporcelain.com. You go to my website and it'll have a link up here. If you keep it on your computer, you just click the link. It'll take you right to the tutorial. It has step-by-step and the final outcome so that everybody gets an idea of what all is involved in the process. Okay, there are 3 different colored backgrounds that I found that work really well with these jingle bells. The first is the red. And you can see that the red background with the green around it, very Christmassy, nice little Christmas gift mug. I also did it with the green, and this is an autumn green, and the brown, this is a rich brown. So the darker the background, as you can see, autumn green is very dark. That's the one I'm actually going to do today because it's easier to see. The darker the background, I think the better it turns out. And this is one fire. So I don't really think you need more than one fire in order to get a good outcome. Alrighty, so what are some of the things you're going to need? You're going to need a rich brown, an autumn or a brown green if you decide to do it in greens. You're going to need a pompadour if you decide to do it in a red or a yellow red. I mean, whatever color red you prefer. In order to do the jingle bells, you're going to need yellow brown, and yellow brown too if you have it. If you don't, you can mix a little bit of the rich brown with the yellow brown and make it just a little bit darker so it has a little bit of shading to it. You're going to use a pen oil. Obviously, if you have a jingle bell around, this is really handy. And I have several. I have this little guy. I have these monster guys. And I have a little teeny tiny one. So I use these to place them in different directions so that I then, when I'm putting on my jingle bell cutouts, I can tell, what they should look like. Painter's tape, you can use the blue or the green painter's tape, that works fine. And I prefer a brush with a rounded head. I tried the square head, and the rounded head just seems to lend itself better to shaping the jingle bell than the square headed, the regular brushes that we use do. You will also need a round sponge. Now, these aren't really sponges. They're more like, they have the texture of a packing peanut. They're real hard. Can you see how hard it is for me to push that in? I tried using these, from the dollar store, the things for your hair. And this one is just too flimsy. And when I turned it, it didn't hold its shape as well as these little packing peanut things. So if you can find something that's like this and cut it about this long so you can hang on to it well. Here's another one you can see. I've got smaller and I've got a larger. It gives you a lot of different choices. You're going to need that. And then, of course, your normal things like your mineral spirits and your painting medium. Okay, so I'm going to tilt you down and give you a chance to see what we're going to work on. So I have my mug right here. It's been taped off. Now, on this mug, it's the same mug. This one has a little rim up here. So when I taped it, I had to tape over the rim. That's the reason this is kind of all crinkly. But before you put the tape on, take whatever you're going to use to make your jingle bell and make sure you have enough room on there to put a couple of jingle bells up, down, or whatever, but at least the size of the jingle bell and maybe half again as wide. I really didn't measure this, but I have a ruler right here, and it's about an inch. It's about what I thought. So on this mug, that looks pretty nice, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so then I'm going to start out. Oh, you know what? You do need to use your regular brush. In fact, you probably need a little wider brush, like one of the widest ones you can find, because in order to put the paint on, you are going to need a square shader, and as wide as you can find it, but still have it be usable. So I have this square shader here, and I'm just going to make sure it's clean, and I'm going to dip it in. I'm using autumn green. You can use a brown green. That works just as well. You know, last week I introduced that whole series of paints that I have online now on my website. And in there it has a dark and a light for every color. So in there it has the brown green, which I think would be perfect for this. I like the autumn green only because I'm showing you how to do this on the air here, and I think it'll show up a lot better. I'm just taking the paint and putting it on, and then I'm going to smooth it. So you just apply it. And if you have the tape on there, you don't even have to be that careful about how you apply it. But just make sure that it's nice and gets everywhere, you know, up to the tape. You don't want it. You might have to turn it the opposite direction and paint it too. There we go. The drier you paint, probably the better, but you know, if it's a little bit wet, it won't be a problem. And then the key is to smooth it. So see here how I have those, you want that gone. You want it as smooth as you can get it, which probably means you have to hold the brush extremely lightly. You just barely hold it in your hand and just smooth all the way around. You're going to smooth that paint. Very lightly hold the brush and smooth it. Now, if there's a couple places where you can't get it smooth, that's where you put a jingle bell. Okay? So I think I've got it pretty smooth all the way around. Okay, I'm going to clean this. Now you're working on a round surface too. This is something that I haven't done in a while with you because I didn't think it was easy to see a round surface. But when you're working on a round surface, it's a little tricky because you can't just lay it down like this and just twist. You know, it doesn't work that way. You have to hold it and do it high. So I'm going to take, this is my little noodle here, and I'm going to take and I'm going to check where the lines are. I want it to be above the tape line, at least for the first one. You want to mix them. You want them to overlap. You want to have half a one. Here, I'll show you on here. You can see. Let me bring it up here. So these two overlap right here. Here I have a half a one. Here I have a half a one. Here I have one. These two bump. So you want a variety, and you want to make them look as clumpy or as unclumped as you feel is good. So you're going to take your eraser, hold your mug firmly, and you're going to just put it on here and twist. So that's a half a one. And then you wipe it off. Try to get all the paint off of that. See how I'm doing that? Don't put it in mineral spirits in between. You want to make sure that as you're doing this, you're not bleeding. The mineral spirits will cause it to bleed into the paint. You want it to be as nice as possible. If you twist it, you get a little more paint off. You're trying to make it look random. Random is always difficult. So this is what I have so far on this side. There you can see. I have a little bit of a hole here. I might just put a little bottom. Just a little bottom there, just so it has something to fill it in. Make it aesthetically pleasing to you. Doesn't matter whose mug it's going to be. Make sure you're comfortable with the way it looks. And I really want one up here more, but oops. Now, if you don't get it quite even, like I didn't get this one quite even, you can go back over it. And then when you're pulling it out with your brush later, you can shape it. Okay, so I've got them all the way around. See, all the way around. Pretty easy, huh? Nothing to it. You're going to want to clean this off by putting it in your mineral spirits and then really cleaning it on your pad when you're done. It will dry, it will have color on it because you used it once already, but it won't really affect the next one you do if you get out as much of the mineral spirit, much of the paint as possible. And then just set that aside. You're done with that now, and you're done with your brush, so you can put that aside. Now, I'm going to take my little rounded brush. I'm going to dip that in my mineral spirits. I'm going to flip over my paper towel because I don't want all the, or get a fresh one, because I don't want all of the green on here. What I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be removing the color from the inside of these Jingle bells. So I got that one off. Now I'm going to do this one. And you see why I like the rounded corners on this brush. It kind of follows the Jingle bell and makes it very easy. Okay. Then when you find that you're not getting all the paint off, go back in, really use your mineral spirits, super dry off your brush. Oops, and come back. It's harder to work on a rounded surface. So if suddenly your Jingle bell takes on a life of its own, make it a little larger. It's okay. You can have large Jingle bells and small Jingle bells on here. It doesn't matter which. And then we're going to do this one up here. I'm just going to do 1/2 of this mug so you can see what it'll look like. I want to make sure we do some that overlap, some that have half. Okay, there's what I've done so far. I'm just wiping these out. Getting all the green out of the middle of them. A little bit of green won't hurt. And actually, when you go to do the shading, a little bit of green in there is kind of interesting. But for the most part, you want to get the color out. And if you wipe it on your towel and it's really super green, then it's time to put in the mineral spirits and really wipe it off. Here, I'll do this one really close so you can see it. And then this one up here. Make sure you get that center section out of there. Okay, so I've done a number of the Jingle Bells. And I still have a few more to go, but I'm not going to spend the whole time wiping these out. You get the idea. And where they overlap, you can just wipe between them. That's fine. Let me get a little better, a little cleaner here because we're going to do this one for sure, and I want to make sure it's nice and clean. Okay. Alrighty. So next step, you take and you add a yellow-brown. Now, my yellow-brown, it kind of looks like the color of a Jingle Bell, I guess. It's this color there. I'm not going to put it on quite that dark. You see how dark I have it there? I'm going to put it on a little lighter, and I'm going to go around the outside. I'm right-handed, so I'm doing the left side first of the Jingle Bell, flip it over, and then do the other side of the Jingle Bell. You're making like a giant C. You're trying to leave the center with a little bit of highlight. This one here, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start and just make a half circle. I know the color is not as easy to see. When we get the other yellow-brown on here, I think it'll be easier for you to see. This is my monster one here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do this side of my Jingle Bell. Got a little bit of the green in there. Didn't mean to, but it doesn't look too bad. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side of the Jingle Bell. Now you'll notice here I have like an obvious circle in the middle. You don't really want that, so you want to just, let me flip it over. You want to just lightly brush. It's kind of like when we do background, just lightly brush, kind of get rid of, so it doesn't look quite so obvious. Okay. And then let's just do, this guy here is real simple. He's a half circle. So you're just going to do the top. This guy here, kind of the same thing. Decide where your light is coming from. It can come head on. Nope. It can come from the right or from the left, but you have to decide where the light is coming from, because the next thing we do is we're going to add the darker yellow-brown, and you will see that you're going to need to have some definite ideas of where the light's coming from. Now here you have to decide which of these is on top. I decided this one's going to be on top. So I did the bottom one with that little half circle, kind of faded it out a little so it's not so obvious. And then I'm going to do a full circle on this one. And like I said, You're working on a rounded surface and you're working on rounded ornaments, so it's going to be a little more difficult than you might have been used to. If you could find a square mug, that'd be great. Okay. And let me just even this up a little down here. Okay, so I've done all my yellow brown on here. I'm going to give it a once over, kind of look at everything, say, does that look good? Yeah, I think it does. I do a little bit of smoothing here, smoothing there. If I were working on the mug as, on my own, I would clean off all of these all the way around, and then I would do this all the way around, and then I would put on the next color all the way around. It just makes it easier. Okay, now we're going to do the yellow brown too, or like I said, you can even use a rich brown if you want to mix it in. And this is where you're going to decide where the shadow is. So for me, you can see the shadow is on the left, and you have to be consistent. If you do it for one, it's the left and the bottom. You have to do it for all. So I did it there, and now I'm doing it. Can you see I'm doing it here? I'm gonna make it a little bit darker so you can see, because these colors are not the best colors to paint with for someone to be able to see. Okay, and we're just going to go all the way around. On this little one down here, it'll be on the top. On this little one over here, it will be on this side. I need to put a little more oil on there. I think you can pretty much see as I'm painting. I don't think you're having any problems seeing as I'm painting. I'm trying to keep it moving so that you get the idea. Okay, this is what I have so far, and I'm going to add a little more here. And then I decided that this guy's on top. I'm going to do him, but then I have to come back and put a shadow underneath. Don't forget. When you have one on top, the other one needs a shadow, and that's the reason I wanted to do this guy was, oops, so you could see how it works. So I have this guy on top, this guy's on the bottom here, but now I'm going to go back and put a shadow right here. To prove he's on the bottom. He's behind the other one. Oops, my brush is separating. When it separates like that, it means you need a little more oil. Okay. All right. So can you see how I put a little bit of a shadow there? Now, if I don't think the shadow is dark enough, I can even take a little rich brown. I'll just give you an example here and put a little rich brown there. Maybe a little more rich brown. You have to be careful. You want to use it very sparingly. And then go back and redefine the top one. Okay. So now we have all of our jingle bells colored in. Now, there are two kinds of jingle bells you can do. You can do the kind like this that have the, see how they have this little ridge around? These are the older jingle bells. The newer ones do not. And this is a newer jingle bell. I don't have an older jingle bell, but the older jingle bells were kind of almost like there were two parts soldered together. So if you want to make it the older jingle bell, let me show you what to do before we get too far along. You're going to take your wipeout tool And you're going to look at the jingle bell, and wherever it is the widest, you're going to make almost like an arc. So I'm going to go here to there. And I'm going to come out a little on each side. That's to make an older jingle bell. Let's do another one. We'll do another one right here. This one, I think I'm going to come down a little and do it here to here. Can you see that? I'm doing it from here to there. Round it off a little on the end. This one, I can flip the mug if it's going the opposite direction and make it go across like this. So that's for those kind of jingle bells. The regular jingle bells, you don't have to do that for. And I'll show you how to do both. Okay. Now, with this jingle bell, when we get done doing the cutouts, we're going to have to do a little bit of shading underneath that rim. You're also going to put in the little bell holders. They'll be at the top, so you determine where the top is. Now, it doesn't always have to be at the top. You can have them upside down. Like this one, I can make this one upside down. You're just making a little up and down. And on this guy, I'm going to put it over here, up and down. And you may have to go back in and add a little more. Wipe out a little more. This guy's just not cooperating with me. Hang on. There. You see those little wipeouts? I did all this guy, I'm pretending that the top is way up at the top. This guy's upside down. This guy's over to the side. And this guy might be like that. Okay? So you're going to put those on. Alrighty. Now we're going to mix. I'm going to take my rich brown. That's a lot of rich brown. I don't need quite that much. Okay. I've already mixed it. It's a fresh mix. It's not old. I have it on my palette. And so I'm putting it on my tile. I'm mixing it with, I like this drying pen oil. This drying pen oil is nice because once you do something, it will dry, and if you touch it, it won't run on you. Now, I just use my clean palette knife and drop a few drops on there. Okay, and wipe it off. Close it up because it's drying. It will dry up if you don't. And I'm mixing the color into the paint. Now, you want the paint so it's kind of drippy. That's pretty drippy. You see it comes off? So that's about the way I want it. And I'm going to take my pen. I have a fine point in that pen. Just going to drag it through that, test it on my tile, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to take my jingle bell, and I'm going to put it the same direction in front of me. Here. Let's see, I'm going to do this guy right here. Can you see him? I'm going to turn the jingle bell the same direction and see, did I see anything? Yeah, I saw a little bit here. So I'm going to do a little bit here. It's probably not a good example. Let's do one that's easier to see. I'm going to turn my jingle bell so it looks like this one here. And I'm going to do a triangle up here. going to draw the line from the base up. Oops, hang on. And draw a line on this side because there would be two of them. And then I'm going to make this a little bigger triangle. That's my jingle bell. Turn my jingle bell. Now, you can use a big one, you can use a little one. I like the little one too. The little one helps me a lot. I turned it so that it's facing like this one is. I turned the upper part in the right direction, and I'm just going to start with the line at the bottom and bring it up. It has to be contoured. It can't be a straight line. You have to curve it around the jingle bell a little. And I will say this is easier on a flat piece. So there, I've got two of the lines. Then I'm going to put the little triangle at the top. You may only see half of it there. Okay. This one's totally upside down, doesn't need anything. Now with these, I'm going to turn it the way I want it to be. And these start down here. So I'm going to do a little triangle. Make sure I have enough pen on there, or ink on there. And you have to do the contour to the bottom. You want it to be on an angle. You want it to be rounded to kind of go along with this. And you have to remember that it's going to hit, you may not always see two. But that gives you an idea. Then I have one that's, I don't have any that have the side facing me. If I have one that just had the bottom facing me, let me show you how I would do that. This isn't colored in, but at least it'll give you an idea. You turn it so you can look at the bottom of the jingle bell, and you're basically doing an X. You're doing it this way. Oops. This way across. And then you're doing it this way across. Okay. I tried to do this and then you're going to just round out the edges a little bit. Like that. And you may have to go back with your brush if you missed and see, that's how the bottom of the jingle bell looks. So you want these to look all different ways. And then your final thing that you're going to do is you're going to take a little bit of, I would think, finishing brown. I kind of like finishing brown. And you're just going to put a little bit of shadow if you did these kind of jingle bells. If you did the kind of jingle bell that is the older jingle bell, you're just going to take and put a little bit of that on your brush on the very tip and just go across and add a little bit of dimension there to make sure that that little guy comes out. Okay? And that's all there is to it. And you just go around, ideally have a jingle bell handy because you can see this jingle bell. See how that looks like that? This jingle bell. See, I turned this way. I don't know if you can see the cutouts. Yeah, there's a cutout there and there, and I have 2 on there. This little guy, I have 2 going down to the bottom, and that's how I do it. I'll take the tape off of this very carefully when I'm all done. And don't forget to try to match up the tape underneath the handle too. There we go. I still have 1 more piece. And there you go. That's what it's going to look like. And then you can add your color here, and you will have a Jingle Bell mug. And just make sure you finish all these others out. If you need to, you may have to take and clean your brush and spend some time cleaning up around the edge where the tape was, if it leaks at all. Just do it very, very carefully. That's your brush with mineral spirits, and then dry it. Today, that's what the Jingle Bell mug will look like, and it's a nice gift. You can give it to people, men or women, and it's something that you did. Make sure you sign it. I signed this one on the bottom, and I think it might be easier to sign it on the bottom than to try to sign it up in the Jingle Bells at the top. Okay. Haven't decided what we're doing next week, but I certainly hope you enjoyed doing the Jingle Bells this week, and that you have had fun painting with us. And I will see you later. Bye-bye. Hi, I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope that you will watch future programs by liking and subscribing to my page. If you do subscribe, I would really appreciate it so that other people who have a similar interest will be able to see more of this kind of programming. I have studies available at my website along with products. If you're interested in finding out more about those, please look at the description box below. Thank you.